Hi, welcome back to the YouTube version of our math poetry readings. Maybe next year it'll be in Finland. I'm starting with a poem that I wrote a long time ago, I mean decades ago. I discovered in a pile like this high of old poetry, and I like it enough to read it today. It's called The Theory of Complementary Objects. Every object has its own unique set of properties. No two distinct objects have the same set of properties. So we can define an object as a set of properties, and we can define a sub-object as a subset of the object's properties. And then the complement of an object is the complement of the object's properties. Also, an object is said to exist if it contains for each property either that property or its negation, and not both. The theory breaks down pretty quickly. For example, what about the property of not being capable of riding a bicycle? And what about the universal object, which is the set of all properties, or the poor non-existent null object with no properties at all? And this poem was written recently, but it's also about a long time ago, longer than that. I was age 16, talking about where I was back then with my math passion. It's called Big Bang's Theory. In Men of Mathematics, Descartes' face suddenly boomed out at me. His hair was long and wavy, his eyes were large and protruding. Everything about him was thick and evident. He looked surprised, maybe scared, as though he'd seen a ghost, or maybe just woken up. I hesitated to stare at him too often, was afraid somebody would be looking over my shoulder, thinking, why is she always staring at Descartes? Because he seemed cold, unpopular, deprived of things like love, because he expressed how I felt about math. And he had bangs. That's partly what gave him that penetrating look. Dark curly bangs pressed against his forehead, maybe glued to his forehead, or growing out of his forehead. Bangs like fur, bangs he couldn't get rid of. Bangs like a birthmark, inescapably big. More recent is called Two is Worse Than One. In the small room, we notice on the floor towards the left a large roach. Then in the sink, we notice a large roach. How did it move so fast? I ask, and John says, no, there are two of them. That was a horror. Two is worse than one, more worse than you'd think, infinitely worse, because, well, in math, it takes only two linearly independent vectors to generate via linear combos, an infinity of them. So yeah, a whole plane of roaches, whole floor, whole ceiling, or whole wall. Three would be even worse. Moon and motion. I can see the moon, but I can't see it move. Less than a minute ago, it was behind the window frame. What else moves in this way? Not slow motion movies, not turtles, but the minute hand of a clock. And our growing, aging, a baby's aging. I didn't see him age. I knew only that at 1 day old, he looked different from the previous day. In early adolescence, I had two theories of motion. First, when an object moves, it disappears from one place and appears in another. Second, there's no such thing as fast and slow. Fast just means the object moves more often. Back to the moon, tonight's moon. It kind of does move some instances and not others. And it kind of does disappear from one place and appear in another. For example, I don't see it falling, but it's no longer hovering above the church. Instead, it's dropped behind and lighting up the cloud above it. And now that cloud has become darker. The moon must be falling further down. And this last poem, well, the Humanistic Mathematics Journal is putting together a collection of COVID math poems. So this is one of my submissions. It's called 4,000 Steps. A hypnotist once caused someone to forget the number 8. So now sometimes I forget 8. In fact, I forget 9, 10, all the way to 20. I have lots of occasions to count: Zen meditation, daily exercises, in particular walking 4,000 steps a day. Indoor walking, because I'm quarantining to the max. And because I read somewhere that if you walk 4,000 steps a day, you'll live longer. I guess even if I skip from 9 to 19, I'll still live longer, and I'll still not catch COVID. But maybe not when I skip 9 to 59. How did I get to 4,000 so fast? What's the big hurry? I'm a mathematician. I love all the integers, so why do I keep skipping so many? I'm not into denial, so why am I denying? I wasn't hypnotized, so why am I forgetting? When do I need, what do I need wishful counting for? I know how to count correctly, so how come I don't?